Are you ready for the best damn radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You know on the beat every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that thing. While I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who's coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, then listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Starts like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzz beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And what is going on, Man Hour Nation? It's your boy, BC Beastie Brandon Combs, coming to you live. This is Man Hour. I am your host for the evening. And joining me tonight is my co-host for the evening, none other than Wayne G. What's going on, Wayne?
What's up? The show just got smarter and more handsome.
That's debatable. What's not debatable is how bad the Baseball Hall of Fame is, but we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into some basketball talk. We've got some NFL stuff lined up. But you know what? I can't wait to get into this. I've been chomping at the bit to get into this, and now Rule the Jungle is really starting to get under my skin with his comments over here on the YouTube page. So Rule the Jungle, we're going to get into this here. Baseball Hall of Fame has come out and said, well, not come out and said, they came out and they voted, and Big Papi is in the Hall of Fame. Well deserved, right? Big Papi deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He is a Hall of Famer. His postseason credentials are unthinkable. I mean, career .455 batting average in the World Series. I mean, he was an absolute beast in the postseason. One of the greatest DHs of all time, probably the greatest DH of all time. I know a lot of people will, throw a couple other names out there, but he's one of those guys who absolutely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I would have voted for him absolutely 110%. But Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds in their 10th year on the ballot. The fact that they were in their 10th year on the ballot is another story. But they don't get voted in again, and now they are off the ballot. Can they be voted in next year by this other committee that they have going? Possibly. But the baseball writers did not vote either one of these guys in. And a lot of the talk there, Wayne, is because of their steroid era, being a part of that era. And to me, you lose your credibility with that argument when you vote David Ortiz into the Hall of Fame. You lose your credibility in that argument when you've got guys like Mike Piazza in the Hall of Fame, who was named in the Mitchell Report. You lose that credibility when you've got guys in the Hall of Fame. You look at a guy like Ted Williams. So Boston fans love Ted Williams, right? But that guy was an asshole. Everybody knew that the guy was a jerk. Yeah, half the time he had run-ins with the media. You have Babe Ruth, who was an alcoholic, one of the greatest players of all time. He was an alcoholic who used to run around with women even while he was married. Then you've got Camp Anson, who's a known racist. I don't know if you knew this, Wayne, but prior to 1890, black players were actually able to play baseball prior to 1890. Cap Anson planned to organize a strike. Before that, he had another player, Stovey was the last name, who was planned on starting a game, and Cap Anson said, "I'm not playing in the game." And now all of a sudden, with all this strike and stuff, that's when they decided to put a ban on black ball players. And then you got Ty Cobb. Another known racist. Rumors that he used to go out into the Bronx and shoot blacks on his day off. A guy who was known for sharpening his cleats before games so he would slide into players, cleat first, and injure them. These are the guys that are voted into the Hall of Fame, but the Baseball Writers Association somehow drew a line in the sand for the steroid era. So I explain it to me, Wayne. Like, I don't understand. Am I nuts for thinking this way?
No, I'd say obviously you covered a lot there. I think the first thing I would point out, obviously, is that even though it may truly seem like it, the guys that voted for Ty Cobb aren't still voting. It seems like they are, but they're not.
Right.
And so it's a totally different group of guys voting than those guys. Then, I mean, I know you were saying that you wanted to try to find somebody who thinks that Bonds shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because, I think he should be. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think Clemens is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I agree with you 100% on the David Ortiz thing. Like, up until this point, it's been like, we are not letting steroid guys in. And then they let Ortiz in. And Ortiz only got 77% of the vote. So it isn't like he walked in there. But at the same time, he got 77% of the vote because he's a DH, because the Hall also doesn't like to vote for DHs. So it wasn't because of the steroids. And so the thing that blows my mind is that same 2003 report that had Ortiz's name on it had Bonds and Clemens' name and Pedro's name, who got 96% of the vote or whatever it was. All those guys' names were on that report. So why are those two guys, or I mean, there's a handful of them, but those two guys in particular, why are they being singled out?
Yeah, I don't understand. Not only that, but then you look at the steroid era, right? And to me, and I've said this a bunch of times, everybody in the steroid era was juicing. If you believe Cal Ripken wasn't juicing, if you believe he wasn't using something to help him through the minor injuries and the aches and pains through all of those consecutive games while he was playing, you're out of your mind. And if you think that Barry Bonds, who just look at the stats. I mean, the stats are astounding. You can't find anybody's stats, and there is not one player that I can't argue with you on those stats. Not even Babe Ruth himself. I could put those numbers up next to him and be like, hey, look at this guy. Look at what this guy did. Barry Bonds has done stuff that no player has ever done, and no player will ever do again. When was the last time you saw a hitter in the ninth inning of a game where the other team was down by or up by 2 with the bases loaded and they intentionally walked the player? Yeah. That happened. That happened to Barry Bonds. People were so afraid of Barry Bonds, they walked him with the bases loaded with a 2-run lead and less than 2 outs. It was unfathomable what Barry Bonds meant to baseball. It was just, I don't understand the keeping out of Clemens and Bonds and your whatever their obsession is with keeping these two guys out. And the funny thing is, and I know you pointed this out on the Man Hour Facebook page too, is that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens both failed less tests than Big Papi. None of them have a positive test. And Big Papi does. So if their reasoning is, oh, well, he used steroids, he cheated. First of all, everybody in that era was cheating. Baseball knew they were cheating. Baseball made billions of dollars off of that and then made these guys the scapegoats. These guys can't get into the Hall of Fame because they use steroids. How much money did baseball give back of the billions of dollars that they made off of the steroid era? The answer to that is zero. So the players have to play. Oh, we're going to make billions of dollars off of your backs. Thank you for bringing baseball back, because we had to cancel the World Series in 1994. Nobody cared about baseball for 4 years. And now all of a sudden McGuire and Sosa are chasing records. And then Bonds is hitting 73 home runs in 2002. Great. Now we got our hand caught in the cookie jar. Now you guys are the scapegoats, and guess what? We're going to say that your statistics don't matter because you use steroids.
Yeah, and I think that, the one correction is that I know you said Ortiz tested positive and Bonds and Clemens didn't, but that's not 100% true. They're one and the same, because Ortiz, the report came out that he was on that 2003 list that was supposed to be anonymous. Like, the guys who took those tests weren't supposed to be named. It was supposed to be sealed, and Ortiz's name came out. Bonds and Clemens were also on that 103-man list. So they were all together on that, but none of them officially tested positive, not even Ortiz. Nobody officially tested positive for steroids. So they're all in the same boat there. There is obviously suspicion. I actually think that Bonds did use steroids, and I think that you should let steroids guys in. But that's a whole nother story. I'm just saying that he never tested positive. So you have no proof. All you have is speculation. And so basically it's like, hey, we're finding you guilty just based on the accusation with no evidence.
Yeah, it's the guilty until proven innocent theory, right? And you look at a guy like Bonds who's got 7 MVPs, 12 Silver Sluggers, 3 times he was the Major League Player of the Year, 8 Gold Gloves, 2 batting titles, 14-time All-Star. I mean, this guy's got a 444 career OBP. 444 is his career on-base percentage. If you take away all of his home runs in his career, he still has a 384 on base percentage compared to Big Papi's 380, and that's taking away all of his home runs, all 762.
It's a misleading statistic because home runs don't count as much as walks when you figure that he was hitting 60 home runs a season, but he was walking 196 times. So
that's another amazing stat, right? It's one that I always go to when talking about Barry Bonds when people are like, oh, give me a stat about Barry Bonds. Why was he so amazing? He once had a season where he had more times on base than he had at bats.
Right.
That is insane. That just shows how feared of a hitter this guy was. And for the baseball writers, for some reason, and look, 66% of them, good on them. 66% of them said let him in. 66% of them were like, we're voting him in. The other 34% need to lose their vote because to look at this ball player, to look at his numbers, to look at who he was on the field, to say, hey, you're not a Hall of Famer is a joke. It's an absolute joke. To say Roger Clemens, the all-time leader in Cy Youngs, is not a Hall of Famer is a joke. It's ridiculous. So now we've got the all-time hits leader in Pete Rose. We've got the all-time home run leader in Barry Bonds. And we've got the all-time Cy Young winner with 7 in Roger Clemens. All 3 not in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
It's a joke.
Yeah. And I don't know how to, and the one that actually, I know it kind of gets lost in the shuffle because Bonds and Clemens are the 2 really big names here. But how did Curt Schilling go from 71% last year to 59% this year? He lost 12% of the vote, and nobody got more. It isn't like somebody came along and took some of those votes from him. Nobody did. So how did he lose 12%? And he's not accused of steroids.
Right. And here's the other thing. So the baseball writers, when you go to their whatever the website is, and they show their reference for their votes that are actually made public. So the voters make their cards public, or they can choose to remain anonymous. So of the ones that are made public, 77% voted for Bonds to be in the Hall of Fame. So now you've got the ones that aren't made public. Shouldn't all of them be made public?
I think so. Yeah. What are you so afraid? What are you embarrassed about? Like, you didn't vote for Bonds and you don't want people to know about it?
Yeah, I don't understand the reasoning behind that. And then why are baseball writers voting anyway? Why isn't this a committee of former players, of players that are in the Hall of Fame even? You could have a committee of 10 players that are in the Hall of Fame themselves who say, hey, yes, look, this guy belongs in. Or no, this guy doesn't belong in. Because I guarantee you, if you let players that are in the Hall of Fame decide who belongs in the Hall of Fame, which I believe the NFL's that way, right? That's how the NFL votes?
I think there's writers involved as well. There's a number of different criteria. I think they might actually have more voters in the NFL because I do think that Hall of Fame inductees, certain former players, coaches all get votes, writers get votes. There's a lot more votes than there are in baseball.
So why does the National Baseball Hall of Fame continue to let these guys who clearly only vote for the guys that they have good relationships with, that also have the statistics to back it up, into the Hall of Fame? I mean, to me, that's the only reason why you look at a guy like Clemens and you look at a guy like Bonds not in the Hall of Fame. And look, I'm a Cubs fan, all right? And I know a lot of people are upset that Sammy Sosa is off the ballot as well. I don't think Sosa's a Hall of Famer. I look at his numbers. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. You could talk about his power numbers all you want. Other than that, the man was nothing. The same thing. I'm in the same way with Mark McGwire. Mark McGwire doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame either. Their home run chase that season belongs in the Hall of Fame. Maybe there needs to be a chase wing in the Hall of Fame or something like that. But those guys are not Hall of Famers. These guys are like, they're no-brainers. If you look at these guys and you look at these stats and you look at what they did on the field, there is no question that they are Hall of Famers.
Yeah, I mean, I think McGuire and Sosa are as well. If Bonds and Clemens are, again, the whole thing, the reason that
why do you think McGuire and Sosa are
500 home runs, 600 home runs? I mean, 4 consecutive years with 60. I mean, those are things that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. If we're going to throw out the whole steroids thing and just say, hey, listen, we're letting in the guys who are the best. I mean, were McGuire and Sosa 2 of the best power hitters of their era? I mean,
Sosa had a 273 career batting average. The guy had a career 344 OBP. I mean, sure. I mean, you could look at the home runs, the 609 home runs. Look, he is the Cubs all-time leader in home runs. He is a guy who I loved watching. I loved watching him play the game all throughout. I was enamored by the home run chase in 98, probably my favorite season of baseball other than 2016 for obvious reasons. But probably my favorite summer of baseball was that 98 season. And I loved watching that chase. But this is a guy who also struck out on average of about 133 times a year. This was a guy who was he was pretty much home run or nothing. He never really climbed above I know he never got to 200 hits in a season. I think one year he became close. I think it was that 98 season. I think he got close to 200, but this guy just was not, he was a home run or nothing type guy. I watched him wither away in pennant chases year after year with the Cubs. And he just, to me, I'm not putting him in he was a subpar defender. You look at Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds got 8 Gold Gloves. Okay. Sammy Sosa was I don't even know if he ever won one. And if he did, it was just because of his name, but I'm pretty sure he never won one. He was an all-star maybe 7 times. He did win an MVP once, but to me, that's not Hall of Famer. Mark McGuire, to me, I mean, I don't know. Mark McGuire is just not there for me either. Neither one of these guys are there for me. But to me, Bonds and Clemens, you could call them borderline, right? Sosa and McGuire may be borderline Hall of Famers. But Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds are no doubters.
Well, see, and I think that you're looking through a keyhole, so let me open the door for you, which is, let me ask you this. What is Ozzie Smith's career batting average? What's his career OBP? Like 210? I mean, how many home runs did he hit in his career? 3? I mean, how many stolen bases did he have in his career? 100, right? Why is Ozzie Smith in the Hall of Fame? One of the greatest defenders of all time, right? It's okay to get in the Hall of Fame if you were really good at one thing. And Sosa and McGuire were both really good at one thing.
Yeah, but see, when you look at guys like Ozzie, I don't know that I would have voted Ozzie Smith into the Hall of Fame if I had a vote. That's the thing. I mean, look, this is always up for debate, right? You can look at all these guys, look at their numbers, look at all this stuff, and you can argue it till you're blue in the face, right? To me, Ozzie Smith is not a Hall of Famer. Sammy Sosa is not a Hall of Famer. These guys, to me, you can argue it, maybe borderline guys, but to me, those aren't the guys that you want in. Big Papi deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He was a one-way player. I mean, he was a DH. He didn't play defense. And when he did, he wasn't very good. That's why he was a DH. So I don't know. I don't think that look, you can argue until you're blue. I'm not a big Ozzie Smith guy anyway. He's a Cardinal, so that's strike number 2 for me. But I don't know. I'm not a big Ozzie Smith guy. I wouldn't have voted him in the Hall of Fame. You think Ozzie Smith is a Hall of Famer?
I do, because he did one thing really well. I think Nolan Ryan's a Hall of Famer. We've had this argument. Again, did Nolan Ryan walk a lot of guys? Did he have a really high ERA? Did he lose 300 games in his career? Pretty much. Not really, but pretty much. I mean, but he struck out 6,000 guys or 5,600 guys. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. 7 no-hitters. He was really good at one thing, which was throwing a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. And I don't mind guys getting in who are really good at one thing. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying these guys should be in and these guys shouldn't, like you are. You're kind of cherry picking. I'm saying let everybody in. If they're really good at one thing, let them in. I don't have a problem with it. But if they weren't good at anything, then don't let them in.
Yeah, and I see Rule of the Jungle comes in and says, Combs, everyone should be in the Hall of Fame because they are good people. No, I don't say that. That's what the baseball writers are saying. I don't look. I could care less. Look. Cap Anson, Hall of Famer. You look at his numbers; he's a Hall of Famer. Ty Cobb, no doubt, Hall of Famer. These are guys who are not good people. What I'm saying is that the baseball writers should not be drawing a line in the sand at the steroid era while you allow these types of people to be in the Hall of Fame. Because if that's your moral compass, is that they use steroids, I mean, it's a joke. And not only that, but the game knew they were doing it. Baseball, absolutely 110%. Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa were smaller than me when they entered Major League Baseball. By the time that they left, their forearms were wider than my face. So they were clearly using, and everybody knew it. Baseball knew it. And now the players are forced to pay the price, and it's not fair.
Well, I mean, I think that, again, doesn't necessarily mean that they're using. I think it's circumstantial evidence. Again, I think they were using, but is it impossible to put on 60 pounds over 5 years? That's 12 pounds per year. Is that impossible?
No. I mean,
Trout just put on 20, you know?
Trout uses HGH, so he has the ability, because Major League Baseball gives him a pass to use it because he has a thyroid condition.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not impossible for Barry Bonds to go from 200 pounds or 180 pounds to 260 pounds over the course of 7-8 years, which he did. I mean, Bonds didn't just show up one day huge. Like, he gradually got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know. And they talk about how he was a gym rat. They said Barry Bonds was in the gym 8 hours a day. So it's not completely unrealistic to think that he was steroid free. I mean, obviously, I think he used steroids, but it's circumstantial evidence because we don't have any positive tests that prove it. And it is possible to put on 10 pounds of muscle per year. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then my other thing is, like, who cares? Who cares if they use steroids, right? We pay the price of admission to go see certain ball players, right? And Barry Bonds was one of those guys that when he came to town, you paid the price to go watch him play baseball if you're a baseball fan. And Sammy Sosa was another one of those guys. Mark McGwire was one of those guys. Those were the guys that you wanted to see play. And did you care if they were using steroids? No, you wanted to see him hit bombs. Would you care right now if somebody was using? No, because what you want to see is entertainment. You want to be entertained. You want them to show up and be the best version of themselves while they're on the field. Okay. And to sit there and say that you care about the sanctity of the game, and if they use steroids, they're cheaters, which that's another conversation. To me, it is just, I don't think you're being honest with yourself. I don't think you're being honest with yourself if you're saying that, let's say, let me come to you with one, Wayne. You, and we're going to talk about him later on, had it come out that Kobe Bryant was a steroid user during his career in the NBA, would you look any less on his career in the NBA? You would?
I would. I'd be disappointed because I was just going to bring up Bo Jackson because we talk about how Bo Jackson was
there's another one. Yeah.
Incredible freak athlete. You know, I mean, again, runs a 4.1 40, you know, hits 600-foot home runs, like has a cannon for an arm in the outfield. Like, if it came out that he was on steroids, doesn't that kind of diminish it a little? It takes away some of the magic. I mean, I think it does, you know, and for me, it's not even that. Baseball needed to get steroids out of the game. And the reason being is that if you say, hey, listen, we're cool with steroids, I understand at the major league level, I get it. I totally get it. But here's what happens. If you want to make it to the majors now and they're cool with steroids, you got to start using when you're 11, you know, so you can make it to the majors. So I think by Major League Baseball cracking down and saying no steroids is kind of, you know, hey, I better not use steroids if I'm a high school senior because, you know, when I get drafted, they're going to test me and I could get suspended before I even play.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't look at it at them any different. I have Barry Bonds as my greatest of all time, and I wholeheartedly believe he used steroids. I still think he's one of the greatest players to ever step on the field. To me, he's 1A and Babe Ruth is 1B. And I know we've had this conversation before, and you have that flipped. But we've still got Barry Bonds as one of the greatest players to ever step on the field, and we both believe he used steroids.
Well, I think we've accepted it. You know what I mean? I'm talking more about you're saying somebody who went their whole career without any suspicion and now it comes out. I think that would be very disappointing. But I think with us, we watched Barry Bonds and we just kind of accepted it. Like, yeah, whatever, he's juicing, but it's still cool.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. A-Rod is another one that I want to touch on, and I know I didn't put this in the rundown, but A-Rod had 33% of the votes. Is A-Rod going to be one of those players that is like Barry Bonds, who starts out very low and kind of gets more votes as the years go? Or is A-Rod going to be the other way and just completely, 3 years from now, be off the ballot? Because A-Rod's another one of those guys who was just nobody likes him. I don't like A-Rod. I think he's a clown, but he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
He does, and he won't get in there. He's going to be off the ballot just like Bonds because it's still the same people voting. I mean, I know one of your questions was like, how do we fix this? And it's too late for those guys. But I had talked about this years and years ago. I know I mentioned it to you, which was these guys who get into the Hall of Fame with 86% of the vote, right? Yeah. And I would say you only need 75, but they get in with 86%. I would say the 14% who didn't vote for them that first time on the ballot lose their vote for the rest of their lives. It has to go to somebody else. And you get a guy like Nolan Ryan who got 97% of the vote. The 3% who didn't vote for him the first time on the ballot, they lose their votes for the rest of their lives. And what you're going to end up with is eventually you're going to get a smarter group of voters who's like, dude, the guy's either in or he's not. You're not going to get all these people who are like, well, first, third ballot. He's more of a fourth ballot guy. I mean, so we need to get rid of all of that. That's the first problem. And I think you do that, you're going to correct a lot of these issues.
And that's the thing too. Like, and I've seen Rule of the Jungle put that in there before. Did his stats get better over the last 10 years? No, but his stats were Hall of Fame worthy before. And that's my thing. Like, if you're not a first ballot Hall of Famer, why are you a second ballot Hall of Famer? Or why are you a third ballot Hall of Famer? You're either a Hall of Famer or you're not. And we need to have a system in place. The National Baseball Hall of Fame Museum needs to get with it, because let's get this straight. This is not an MLB thing. The MLB has nothing to do with the National Baseball Hall of Fame. It's a museum. It's run by a completely different organization. And the Baseball Writers Association are a big part of that organization. And so their votes are what get people. The National Baseball Hall of Fame Museum needs to fix their voting. They need to fix how they do it. And me personally, I think you do. I think you have to have a players committee that votes for these guys, and maybe sure you let the baseball, but maybe it needs to be a smaller percentage of baseball writers. Maybe you have to have, 20 years as a baseball writer before you get a vote. I think it's 10 years right now. But I mean, I look at guys that have votes and I'm just like, why does this guy have a vote? Remember, who was it? Dan Le Batard. Remember, Dan Le Batard is a famous one who got his vote stripped from him because he let the people choose his ballot because he wanted to show how much of a farce the voting system was. So that's what we can do to fix it. Is the National Baseball Museum needs to go ahead and change this. So we're going to get off the baseball talk. We are going to head to break. When we come back, we'll get through some of these comments here. I've seen some of them coming in I also saw Rule of the Jungle said something about A-Rod being a voice of the people. We'll talk about that when we come back. We're going to get to a break. I know Buck uploaded some new commercials. I haven't seen any of these yet, so I'm going to see them for the first time right now.
I give a slight edge, Mike, to Marquette because they're playing on their home court. And Marquette's been taking care of business on the road.
Are you ready for the best damn radio show on the planet? Man Our Nation, rise up.
Every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that why I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cole. They don't want to talk to us about the air right now. I second that. So, you know that that's when we talk about sports, giving you facts on the field to the court. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, listen to all. Your station, not dropping no music. Strike like a
station, not dropping no music. Stripes like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're at the dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzz beaters. We coming live all 3 speakers, go.
You're watching Man Hour. Hit that like button, baby.
Man Hour Nation, it's your boy BC Beastie Brandon Combs coming to you with a special message. 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Now, that's 22 too many. And here at the Man Hour, we want to bring awareness to this. Our brothers and sisters deserve our support and our help. With the Take 22 merch, it's a small opportunity to show our appreciation and support to our veterans and take a small step to ending veteran suicide and treating PTSD properly. Every dollar spent on our Take 22 merch will be donated to the cause. So Man Hour Nation, rise up and show your support. I don't even know what just happened.
That was an uneven little roller coaster.
It was all hyped up, and then all of a sudden the Take 22 ad, and I'm like, what in the hell just happened? First of all, 2 things I noticed in that commercial. 1, Buck, hit me up. I know a guy who's got some vent covers that we could put in your house for you. I can get that taken care of for you relatively quickly. 2, Buck's a damn fool. I mean, look, good on him. He puts a lot of effort in behind the scenes, especially with these commercials. He's always got these crazy ideas for different ways we can promote. He works his ass off, so he deserves all the credit in the world. But that one got me. But then, yeah, we're all hyped up, and then all of a sudden the Take 22 thing comes in, and I'm like, that was uneven, as Rule the Jungle says, confused by this. Me too, Rule. Me too. Let's get into some of these comments here. I want to go back. I know we had a lot of comments here. Javier in the chat. What's going on, Javier? I see Drew in the chat. Rule the Jungle's out there. I even see Buck in the chat. Got a lot of things going on. I even see my boy Hoffy was in the chat. But Javier says, Bonds mad money for baseball, and they knew it. You know, that it's one of those things that's something that is always going to be my sticking point for this, is that baseball knew it was going on. So why do the players pay the price? And I just don't get it. They got thrown under the bus. So it's how it is, and we can go on about it for days. I could do a 2-hour show just on this, but I know some people out there don't want to see it. Like Rule the Jungle says, blah blah blah. Talk about Grayson Allen getting kicked out of the game for a hard foul, soft NBA. We're gonna talk about that. I don't know what you think by that one being soft, but we'll talk about it for sure. Drew comes to our defense and says, just because you aren't an MLB fan doesn't mean others aren't. This is a sports talk show. Baseball's a sport. We talk baseball too. I talk baseball. Buck usually doesn't, at least not intelligently. And then Rule the Jungle says, A-Rod is going to gain votes because he's a voice of the people. Now, I don't know what people you know, Rule, but if A-Rod is their voice, you need to find new people. Because, look, A-Rod is, for one, he's just a terrible person. He's just one of those guys that every time you see him, you want to punch in the throat. And not only that, but he is a terrible, terrible analyst. And everybody wanted him off of Sunday Night Baseball. And what did ESPN do? All right, yeah, we're going to take him off Sunday night. We're actually going to give him the baseball version of the Manning cast now, though. So you can tune into ESPN2 to watch A-Rod talk about nothing and watch the game at the same time. It's I don't know. Are you an A-Rod guy?
I love
you
A-Rod.
like A-Rod? Really?
Yeah, I think he's great.
What?
I mean, not as an announcer, but as a player, he was great. And
he was great as a player. Yeah, on the field, he's great.
I think that he suffers a little bit from a LeBron syndrome in that I think he cared too much about what people thought. And I think it got to him a little bit, which is too bad because there's certain things like I think him hitting the ball out of the glove, is a Bush League play, but I still made me laugh. I think him yelling, "I got it" when he goes around the base is kind of funny. That's the kind of stuff that I think is hilarious. So
that's the stuff that I think is just stupid. I mean,
stupid but funny. I don't like Step Brothers.
Yeah. Oh God, I love that movie.
But yeah, I don't think he's a bad person though. I really don't. I didn't hear any reports about A-Rod being Bonds-like in terms of being a dick to everybody. I mean, everything I've heard or read about A-Rod is that actually he's a really likable guy. He just does really stupid things, but he's actually a pretty nice guy.
And then Rule says baseball strike is over. It is. Oh, he's asking, is the baseball strike over? It is not. It's a lockout and not a strike. There's a little bit of a difference there. The players did not go on strike. MLB owners locked them out because they couldn't come to an agreement with the collective bargaining agreement. There has been some progression there, and I know they've met a couple times over the last week, which is huge progression considering they haven't met since the beginning of December. And some of the things, there's been concessions made on both sides, but I think they're still a little bit of ways off on the money. If you want to know about the baseball strike, though, you can also join me tomorrow. I am going to have R.C. Orland, former pitcher for the Cleveland Indians, on with me to talk some baseball strike stuff and some other things as well. So you guys could join in on that, and we'll get you up to date on what's going on with the baseball strike. But I want to move on here. I know, we've got a lot of things going on. One of the things from this past weekend, this is my first show since last Thursday when we made our picks, which, by the way, you went 3-1. Good on you. I went 2-2. I was pleasantly happy with one of my picks that lost because I did pick the Packers to win. So, I was happy that they lost. But was this the best weekend of football you've ever witnessed?
So for me personally, because I thought long and hard about this, and I said, for me, because it's going to vary from person to person, it is not. And that's because the best weekend of football I've ever witnessed was Malcolm Butler getting an interception on the 2-yard line. It still makes me incredibly happy. That was just happy.
One day, though.
And it made it the greatest weekend ever because every time I see that, it makes me smile.
Worst play call in Super Bowl history. Well, one of the worst play calls in Super Bowl history. The other one was by the Falcons to not run the ball when they had a 28-3 lead. But anyway, to me, this was one of the greatest weekends of football. I mean, look, you had 4 games. 3 of the 4 games were decided by field goals with 4 seconds to go in a game, which is mind-boggling that all 3 of them had the same. And all 3 of them were the road teams that won on those field goals as well, by the way. And then the Sunday night game, which just capped off the weekend, and 25 points in the last minute and 40 seconds was just, it was a roller coaster. And I wasn't a fan of either one. I was rooting for the Buffalo Bills because I thought it would have been great had you had Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes all eliminated in the same weekend. I thought that would have just been fun to talk about. I was rooting heavily for the Bills because they were my Super Bowl pick. Preseason, and they showed that they belong. I mean, they really did show that they belonged. They played their butts off. Josh Allen had a hell of a game. The 25 points in a minute and 40 seconds and then overtime was just phenomenal to me. What was your biggest surprise, though?
I think the biggest surprise for me was not losing a game being down with 13 seconds. That's mind-blowing. I think when Josh Allen threw that touchdown and the Bills took the lead with 13 seconds left, I thought the game was over. I mean, I think everybody thought that game was over. And then I think it was only later that I realized they only need a field goal. And so they've got 13 seconds. It's 2 passes, which they ended up making. Yeah. The thing that blew my mind in that, too, was I totally blame McDermott. He lost that game for 2 reasons. One, squib kick, man. Why are you kicking it out of the end zone and no time comes off the clock? Secondly, why are you playing a prevent defense when all they have to do is complete 2 passes? You should be, I'm not saying all out blitz, but you shouldn't be playing all the way back. So That was the most surprising thing for me, though, because I really did think the game was over with 13 seconds left. And, this is why Mahomes is on that first tier with Brady and Rodgers.
Yeah, and for me, the biggest surprise of the weekend was Rodgers and Brady both going down on the same weekend. I did pick the Rams, and then 27-3, right? And I'm like, I texted the group chat, the Man Hour group chat, and I said, if he does it again, I don't know what I'm going to say. And he did it again. he brought the Bucks all the way back. Now, granted, there was 42 seconds left. It turned out to be too much time for Matt Stafford. How in the world you let Cooper Kupp get behind you in that moment is beyond me. Beyond me. But it happened. Matt Stafford, kudos to him. He's the one I'm rooting for the rest of the way. I would love to see Matt Stafford get a ring. But for me, having Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, this is going to be the first time in 12 years that we're going to see an NFC or AFC championship weekend without Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in it. That's mind-blowing. And to me, that's the biggest surprise of the weekend.
Well, no, and the thing about Tom Brady, too, is like, I'm sorry, if that question ever comes up when you're at a party or at the water cooler, whatever it is, that question, if you had to bet your life and you had one drive to win the game, if you're not saying Tom Brady, just sit down. Don't talk football with anybody.
Rule the jungle. Come on, man. Brady did not bring the Bucks back. The defense did. The defense did not put up 24 points.
Nope.
I mean, look, they had some crucial turnovers. They had some stuff that they did. They did their job. But Brady's the one that led the offense to put those points up on the board. I mean, some of those throws that he was making were, look, they're pinpoint throws. Look, is Brady, and we can get to this now because this is one of the questions I have. Is Brady still the same Brady he was 5 years ago? No. He's a 44-year-old quarterback who is still playing elite football. I actually think that he is done. I don't think we're going to see Tom Brady in the NFL anymore. I think that he is about to go, and you heard it from him. His family's going to weigh in on the decisions. First time you're hearing this from him. I think at this point in his life, he's probably got the different perspective. His kids are getting older. His wife is probably saying, hey, when is it time for you to give your time to us? They're probably having that conversation. So I do think that this was the last we're going to see of Tom Brady, which is I kind of wish he would have went out last year, right? Go out on top, because now you're the end of Tom Brady's era. It just feels weird that it goes out the way that it did, right? But I think this is the last that we've seen of Tom Brady. But I don't think that Tom Brady was washed up. I don't think that Tom Brady couldn't do it. I think that I watched some passes that I felt showed signs of him not being the same quarterback that he has been. Some of the interceptions were ugly, but I felt like if Tom Brady came back next year, the Bucs are a favorite again. So I don't know. I think he's done. I think Tom Brady has played his last game in the NFL. What do you think, Wayne?
I think it's tricky. I don't think there's any reason for him to hang it up. I mean, he just led the NFL in passing yards. He threw 40 touchdowns and had 13 interceptions. He had arguably a top 5 season of his career this past season. So why would he step away from the game? And I know he says, I'm going to talk to my family, but he's been doing that. I think it goes back to when he was about 40. Remember, he came out and said he told Giselle he was going to play until he was 45 because she's been pushing him to retire for a while. And he said, I'm going to play until I'm 45. Well, now he's 45, right? But at this stage, I mean, how do you walk away when you're this good? I mean, I understand if he had like a not greatest season, like if he threw for 3,800 yards, which would still be a good season, but he threw for 3,800 yards. I'd be like, all right, he's starting to decline a little bit. He doesn't want to decline too much. We all agree he can still play, but he's going to hang it up. Dude, you can't lead the NFL in passing and walk away after that.
And I only think he's human because I saw him bleed during the game. bleeding from his mouth, which he got his first personal foul of his career in that game, which shows that his passion is still there. I think that the guy is a top-notch competitor. I think he's a maniac when it comes to being a competitor, which is why I don't think that he is fully invested in a retirement right this second. I think it's going to take a little bit. I think it's probably prior to the draft, and we're going to have that, he's going to have his press conference, and I think he's going to hang it up. I do think that Giselle is going to weigh in on that. I see Real the Jungle again comes back in and says, not being the same quarterback equals washed up. Really? So Lamar Jackson wasn't the same quarterback that he was his MVP season this year. So is Lamar Jackson washed up? I mean, there's lots of quarterbacks who weren't the same quarterbacks that they were a season or 2 seasons ago. Does that mean that they're washed up? Or does it just mean that they just weren't the same quarterback this year? Like, I don't think it equals washed up. And I see Javi comes in and says, I'm at the Heat game. So thanks for joining us and watching while you are at the Heat game. Shows how interesting the Miami Heat are.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, Tyler Herro's a bitch.
Oh, God. So we talked about Tom Brady. What about Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think he's done either. I mean, he's obviously done as a Packer, but I don't think he's like retiring. I would see him probably in Denver. I know there's been some talk about that as being a potential landing spot. I think the Saints are a good potential landing spot there for him because he's got some weapons. But I still, long shot, but I still think maybe the 49ers. I know I don't think so because you'd have Trey Lance like on your heels, and I don't think he wants that. I think he wants to go somewhere where he's the man and there's no rookie coming up the ladder. And Trey Lance could be the starter next year. I think Trey Lance could learn a lot from Aaron Rodgers, but he didn't seem too keen on teaching Jordan Love how to be quarterback. So I think he goes somewhere where he can just start and there's no rookie pushing him, which is probably Denver or New Orleans.
Well, I actually spent all of last offseason relishing in the fact that Aaron Rodgers was not going to be a Green Bay Packer again. And then he broke my heart and became a Green Bay Packer again. I think he's going to stay a Green Bay Packer. I just think that that's how it is. I think they're going to, talk to him. Maybe they're going to allow him to have some influence on the draft. Maybe they're going to allow him to have some influence on their free agency. And I think that they're going to try, because they're not that far off from being a Super Bowl caliber team. I think that he'll be a Green Bay Packer again. One of the things I want to touch on is something that you just said, and that is that Trey Lance might be the starter in San Francisco next year. Now, I believed the same thing, but I also believed it prior to the playoffs. Jimmy G is now taking them to another NFC title game. And possibly, if they find a way to beat the Rams, which they've done 6 straight times, this would be the 7th, a Super Bowl. 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. How do you, as a San Francisco 49ers front office, say, Jimmy G, we're going to move away from you at this point? If he goes to a Super Bowl, and even if he doesn't, this is 2 NFC title games in the last 2 years, one of which he would have won. How do you step away from Jimmy G? How do you tell Jimmy G, hey, look, you're not the guy, we're moving away from you, and we're going to Trey Lance, and think you're going to be better than what you are with Jimmy G?
Well, I think, you and I have both seen Mr. Baseball. We love it, right?
Yeah.
And that scene where Jack Elliott's in the office, and they're like, the words come down, Jack. This Davis kid's a real thing. So I think that's how you do it. You say, listen, I honestly think that maybe even – so I'd said that if Jimmy G wins the Super Bowl, guaranteed to be traded. Guaranteed. They won't keep him around because his trade value would never be higher. That's when you move the guy. If he makes it to the Super Bowl and they lose, then I think you keep him around and you let him compete for the starting job, but I don't think he wins it.
That's interesting to me. Like, I don't disagree with you because I believed that Jimmy G was done. And Rule of the Jungle comes in and says Jimmy G hasn't thrown a touchdown pass all postseason. So, I mean, there's another thing. I don't know if that's true, but I'd have to look it up. It might be true because they didn't play very well against Green Bay and still found a way to win that game. I don't think Kyle Shanahan likes Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan's system. I think that imagine if Kyle Shanahan was a coach of the Green Bay Packers, right? I think that the Packers would have won a Super Bowl already because I think Kyle Shanahan's a better coach than Matt LaFleur, and what he would do with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, I think would have been fun to watch. But that's why I think Jimmy G is done in San Francisco, even if they win the Super Bowl, which would be crazy in itself, right? How many times you see a quarterback win the Super Bowl and then not be on the same team the next season? Doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Tom Brady comes to mind. But, I mean, that, that was a different story.
Right.
Well, no, but did they win the Super Bowl the year before?
No, he wouldn't.
No, that's right.
Had a bad year.
Kansas City played that year. Yeah. So I don't think Jimmy G comes back. I agree with you. I think it's an interesting conversation because this is a guy who is a quarterback who has been to 2 NFC title games in 3 years and possibly 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. And what if they win a Super Bowl? How do you say, hey, we're going away from Jimmy G? It's interesting to me.
Well, you put a video out there of Trey Lance throwing the ball 70 yards on a rope, and the fans will go, oh, okay.
It's true. And Rule the Jungle says Kyle isn't a good coach. I don't know what you're seeing. I think Kyle Shanahan is a great coach. I think he's proven it. But everybody's got their opinion. Javi says you are wrong. Hero is the next superstar.
That's hilarious, Javi. You should be a comedian.
He is a comedian. You should see his bets that he puts down. But get back to the NFL. Look, so we talked about the Packers, we talked about the Bucs, and we touched a little bit on that Chiefs game, Chiefs and Bills, and then it went to overtime, right? And overtime, Chiefs win the toss, go downfield, score a touchdown, win the game. Buffalo never has a chance. Is it time for the NFL to change the overtime rules?
Well, it was time a little while ago, and they did. I think that there's a lot of people arguing for a change that don't realize they didn't make a change that long ago. It was less than 5 years ago, I think, when they went from, you could kick a field goal on the first possession and win the game, sudden death. And then they said, all right, listen, that's not fair. So, especially with kickers who can kick 60-yard field goals, you get the ball to the midfield, you can kick the game winner. So I think that they said, listen, we want something a little more competitive. So they did, if you score a touchdown first, it still kind of has a sudden death element to it, but it's not as easy as a field goal. So I personally would love to see an equal possession type of overtime on both fronts, where it's like, basically, if you score a touchdown, you kick it to the other team. If they score a touchdown, then it goes back to 2 more possessions. So again, if it doesn't go to sudden death right now, I think if you kick a field goal, they kick a field goal, it's ultimate sudden death. I wouldn't do that. I'd say, listen, you score a touchdown, they score a touchdown, you get the ball back and score a touchdown, you still have to give it back to them again. And the first person to screw it up is the one that loses.
Yeah, look, there are a couple different things, and I've said this for a long time, even with the other rule change when they made it to, if you score a touchdown, it's over, but if you kick a field goal, the other team gets a chance. I thought that was stupid in itself too. I think that in the NFL, you need to do one of 2 things. The one that I think is the most logical, and probably the one that will still allow for games to end, within a decent amount of time, considering player safety and all that, is to give each team 1 possession. And at the end of that, if it's tied, then you go to sudden death.
Well, that's not fair to the team who goes second.
Why?
Because they could still lose in sudden death. All you're really doing,
but you've already had your chance. Like, you've already had. I mean, you can't just.
Right, but they both score touchdowns. So how is that fair? They both score touchdowns.
because you're still in the overtime and you still had a chance to touch the ball. Like your defense should have stopped them from scoring the touchdown.
Yeah, but the other team had a chance to touch it twice, and you only got a chance to touch it once. How's that any different than 1-0?
What are you going to keep doing? So then the other one, then you probably would like my other idea better, which is just a 10-minute overtime, which you play until there's zero time on the clock. And then at that point, if it's still tied in a playoff scenario, maybe you go to a second 10-minute, over. I don't know what that one looks like, but the 10-minute overtime to me seems to be one of the better ones. I still think that it's going to go to one full possession for each team, and then if it's tied after that, sudden death. I think that's the step that they're going to make next. They're not going to go to a full 10-minute because if you did that in the regular season, I mean, you're talking about player safety. You're talking about what if you have going to overtime, you play 9 minutes of that overtime, and then you got to play on Thursday night, like that part of the thing. Not that the NFL really cares about player safety.
The regular season games can end in a tie, so it's different than the playoffs. And my whole thing is the only right way to do it is, like I said, equal possessions for both teams until somebody messes up, either gives it up on downs, has to punt, gets a field goal instead of a touchdown. That's the only fair way to do it, is just equal possessions for both teams, unlimited, time is infinity. Because somebody's going to mess up. So
college rules, basically. Do you give them the ball at the 25?
Nope, just kickoffs.
Okay, so kickoffs and then take your possession, and whatever you do with it, then the other team gets a possession.
Yep. Well, no, unless you don't. Yeah, they get a possession no matter what. But obviously, they just have to beat whatever you did or match whatever you did to go to the second overtime.
And it's funny, I saw a meme that suggested that, and it said if you went to the final score of that Chiefs-Bills game would have been 152 to 146. It would have been the greatest game you've ever seen. I don't mind that. I like that. I'm good with that as well. I do think it's time for a change, though. I mean, you can't just, God, how could you have not felt bad watching Josh Allen on the sidelines watch Kansas City march it downfield and into the end zone? Like, the look on his face was like, what else could he have done to win that game? Obviously, I know, probably called heads, but what else could he have done on the field, playing-wise, better to have won that game? And the answer is nothing. I mean, there's nothing he could have done better. He played a phenomenal game, and I think that the overtime, I think it's just they've got to find a way to fix it.
It's just sad that in every game there has to be a loser. I mean, how do you think Tom Brady felt getting his team the go-ahead touchdown and then watching David Tyree stick him the ball to his helmet and end up losing that game?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you can go back and forth. Let's get into the comments here before we go to another break. Buck says, leave it alone. Stop overreacting. That's not overreaction. That's just you being a Kansas City Chiefs fan, happy with the way that things ended up. Everybody outside of Kansas City was not happy with the way things ended up because they felt like they were cheated of an actual finish. You didn't get a chance to see. And look, I had no horse in the race whatsoever. I was just enjoying it. Like, I was loving every minute of it. I'm sitting on the couch in my living room watching the game, going back and forth, and I was just I was enamored by the whole way. I just felt like I felt like we were cheated of an actual ending of that game, and so I was just disappointed in the way that it ended. That's all.
I was happy because I picked the Chiefs to win.
Would you have been happy had the Bills won it without the Chiefs?
No,
getting a possession.
Absolutely not. Here's the thing: I don't like. First of all, going back, so we're getting confused. I didn't want the Bills to win no matter what, because I hate the Bills because they play in the same division as the Patriots. But secondly, I agree with the overtime rule. If the Bills won in my rule with the back and forth thing, and the Bills win, I'd be happy with that. Okay, that's fair and square. I think they kind of got cheated. I agree with that. But at the same time, I'm glad Kansas City won, and I hope Mahomes wins another Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I see a Javier's donated a $4.99 to the broadcast. Thank you, Javier. Appreciate that.
I thought that was a fine for saying that Tyler Herro's gonna be the next superstar.
That's probably that might be what it is. Maybe that's what that $4.99 is. But I appreciate it, Javier. I appreciate the donation. Appreciate the love. He says, "Love the show. Have to go to work now." I thought you were at the Heat game. I'm so confused right now, Javier. But thank you, Javier. Thanks for joining. Have fun at work. Hopefully the Heat lose. Just kidding. Well, not really. I'm a Bulls fan. Anyway, we're gonna hit our next break. We're gonna watch another commercial that Buck threw up, and we're gonna find out what it was like. If you haven't seen this yet, you're gonna be just as surprised as I am. Here we go.
If I'm home from work and relaxing,
I watch Man Hour while doing dishes.
In bed, I do for wife and kids.
what do you do when your husband and kid are obsessed with the Man Hour? You watch it with them.
Watch the Man Hour. Check it out.
Have you ever wanted to go to Vegas to see the NFL draft? Well, now you can. Simply head over to youtube.com/manhour, click on that join button, become a $5.99 member or higher, and you get free entry. Simple as that. So head over to youtube.com/manhour and hit that join button. You won't regret it.
You're watching Man Hour. Hit that like button, baby.
Man Hour Nation, it's your boy BC Beastie Brandon Combs coming to you with a special message. 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Now, that's 22 too many. And here at the Man Hour, we want to bring awareness to this. Our brothers and sisters deserve our support and our help. With the Take 22 merch, it's a small opportunity to show our appreciation and support to our veterans and take a small step to ending veteran suicide and treating PTSD properly. Every dollar spent on our Take 22 merch will be donated to the cause. So Man Hour Nation, rise up and show your support.
You got to break them up.
I got yeah. It's got to be. I'm gonna talk to Buck. It's got to be a separate one because it was good. It was good right up until the Take 22 one came. I see the it's funny because to me I always crack up because every time Buck does a video, it never fails because you can always hear River in the background making some sort of noise, right? Because River's always next to his dad, hanging out. Always wants to be a part of the show, always joining in while Buck's on camera. But every time he does one, it's not a Buck video without River's voice in it. But yeah, it was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, we've got to break up the takeaway 22. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would look for a new Take 22 commercial or anyways. Like, I don't like the sad violin music. You know what? Here's what I'm thinking is maybe like an image of like soldiers saluting with like the flag, and then what you're saying is kind of rolling down the screen, but with maybe like the light tapping of a snare drum in the background instead of the sad violin.
Hey, there you go. I like that. The sad violin does throw me off a little bit, but hey, look, I can't complain. Buck does all this on the opposite. Buck says, watch the live today. He came up at about 8:15 and said, Dad, I pooped. Oh, man. Never fails. I love it, though. We'll work on it. We'll talk about some different options. I know Buck's always looking for creative ideas, so we'll definitely work on it. I was cracking up. But anyway, let's move on. We've got some more stuff to get into here. I know Rule had said, hey, talk about the Grayson Allen thing. So let's talk about the Grayson Allen thing. So Grayson Allen was only suspended 1 game for his flagrant 2 on Alex Caruso. Were you okay with the punishment?
No, I thought it was too severe because I agree with you, Rule. Soft NBA. Initially when I had read the story and it said like he had the flagrant foul and Caruso broke his wrist, I thought, I've always felt like if you injure a guy being with a cheap shot, you should have to be out as many games as he is. I think that's only fair. So, however, when I went back and I watched the replay, it wasn't even really that hard of a foul. I mean, I know it looked bad in fast motion. Listen, you got to watch it in slow motion. He goes up, he slaps it. He's going for the ball. He slaps his arm. And as he goes by, he reaches his other arm and he hits the other arm. So he didn't hit the ball at all, but he was going for the ball on both instances. And it happened to flip Caruso upside down. So I didn't think it should have been a flagrant 2. It should probably not even a flagrant 1, maybe just a hard foul. It's a foul.
First of all, okay. If you think that was just a hard foul and that wasn't Grayson Allen being Grayson Allen, then you were watching something totally different than I did. When I saw him go up, the first one, you know what? You're right. It was a hard foul. It was a hard foul, and I would have been all right with it. But what caused Caruso to go off balance, what caused Caruso to land the way that he did, was the second arm coming off and Grayson Allen pushing him the other way. That's what it was. Grayson Allen wasn't going after the ball the second time. He was going after the arm of Caruso. And then the way Caruso lands, bounces off the floor, by the way, because he can't brace his fall, is the exact definition of him being Grayson Allen. And that's why he needed the flagrant 2. And that's why he actually deserved a 3 to 5 game suspension for what he did. A 1 game. So this isn't about soft NBA. He's a dirty player. Grayson Allen has been a dirty player since he was in college. Grayson Allen is just that guy. And Grayson Allen is never going to stop being that guy because when he does stupid stuff like this, he gets this little slap on the wrist.
See, and I agree with you on the second or the part of it about Grayson Allen and his personality and what he is. 100% agree. Just like if you're a pitcher who's a headhunter, right? I mean, that's what you are. I mean, let's just face it. That's what you are. However, does that mean that you can't accidentally throw it up and in? Like you weren't trying to, it just got away from you. Even though you do it on purpose a lot, that one got away from you. And I think that obviously that guy won't get the benefit of the doubt. Grayson Allen's not going to get the benefit of the doubt here. But I'm telling you, from over 30 years of playing the game of basketball, almost 40 years of playing the game of basketball, I can tell you this. I watched that play in slow motion and I was looking for the intentionalness of it. And it looked like a basketball play to me.
I completely disagree. And to me, the icing on the cake is Milwaukee standing behind their guys saying we support Grayson Allen. And I don't know how you look at that because you are the first person that I've listened to who has looked at that play and said that it was actually a basketball play and that it wasn't a dirty play and that he needs to shouldn't have been suspended for more games. You're the first person I've heard say that.
Yeah, well, because I actually am logical and I have a head. So that's why you're getting intelligence.
I listen to logical people too. I mean, I listen to some very good basketball minds when I listen to sports radio, and all of them think the same way. Like I don't understand. There are players. Even you could watch the reaction of his teammates after that play happened, and they saw it happen. They kind of just like put their head down, like, "Oh, here we go again with Grayson." Like
it was a hard foul, and hard fouls have hard results, and they look bad because it's hard. But I'm telling you right now, I watched that play as slow as it could be because I really wanted to see where the malicious intent was, and what I saw was a guy who slapped the arms of the guy with each side of his hand, slap the arms. He didn't go around his neck. He didn't go to the body. He didn't hit him with his body. He didn't pull him down from behind by his jersey. This was a play where he was going for the ball. And when he got that first foul, Caruso still had an opportunity to make the shot. So I think that he was trying to prevent him from making the shot. Now, maybe that led to the injury. I'm not saying it didn't, but I'm saying that it was still a basketball play. He wasn't trying to hurt anybody.
So he did that to Alex Caruso and he got a 1-game suspension.
Mhm.
What if he did it to KD, LeBron James, or one of these other stars in the league? How severe would the suspension been then?
I couldn't tell you because I'm not the one that makes those decisions. If he got a 1 game for this, it should be a 1 game for that. I don't think it should be any games for either. But I think that I understand what you're saying is that obviously if it were a bigger star than Caruso, then it would have been more severe. And maybe you're right, but it doesn't change the fact that to me it shouldn't have been a suspension at all, no matter who it was.
And Rule of the Jungle says if he did LBJ like that, he would have been kicked off the league. I agree. I think that that's what warranted the 1-game suspension was the fact that it was only Alex Caruso. And I think that that's how the league judged it. Had it been a big name guy, had it been one of the league's top stars, this would have been a big issue. He would have been suspended for a lot longer time, which is why I think that this should have been a longer suspension. I don't think this was just a hard foul. I think this was Grayson Allen being Grayson Allen. He's just a dirty player. And that's my next question to you is there a dirtier player in the NBA than Grayson Allen?
Patrick Beverly comes to mind. I mean, Grayson Allen doesn't stand by himself. You could put him on a tier, like we talked about quarterbacks on tiers. Patrick Beverly's pretty dirty. Lance Stevenson's back in the league. He's a pretty dirty player. So there's a few guys. I don't think Grayson Allen is head and shoulders above anybody, but I'd say that he is got the reputation.
Yeah, there's not. So I'm just now getting back into the NBA this season. I really haven't been a big NBA guy. I'm just now starting to kind of adjust to, because I'm an old school guy when it comes to the NBA, right? Like I love the 80s and 90s NBA. I love the, drive it to the lane, the post them up, the actual what the NBA was back then. And it's just a different game than it was back then. So I just hadn't been able to really adjust, but I'm starting to adjust, and I'm it's to me it's still a 3-point and slam dunk contest every night. Nobody really plays defense, but I'm starting to get back into it. So I don't know who are the dirty players. I know Grayson Allen because I remember watching him play in college, and I've seen him throughout his time here and there in the NBA, and I know who he is. So I don't know if he's the dirtiest player, but I'll take your word as to what you just said regarding him. Are you okay with the Bucks defending him there?
Of course. He's their teammate. You should always defend your teammates, right? And two, like I said, it wasn't even a flagrant foul. So, I mean, why wouldn't you defend him? It was a basketball play. So you say, hey, listen, we're behind this guy. He was trying to stop Caruso from making a basket. He didn't do it in a dirty way. So we're 100% behind him. And we hope that if we're going up for a dunk or an open lane, we hope somebody fouls us the same way because, listen, it's a competitive sport and you shouldn't be trying to, allow layups.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I still don't agree that it was just a hard foul. Maybe it is. Maybe it's his his persona that makes me look at it that way, right? I don't know, had I seen, Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan do the same thing to another player, if I would have felt the same way about it, right? I can't tell you that. I don't know. But when I look at this play, and I've looked at it over and over again, I don't see it as just a hard foul. I see it as a dirty play, which caused the guy to break his wrist.
Well, and then let me put that on the opposite end of the spectrum then for you. You had said, what if this was LeBron James or what if it was Kevin Durant? Let me ask you this. If Caruso bounces right back up, is it a flagrant 2?
No.
Okay.
And by rule, it's not a flagrant 2, right? By rule, it's because of the impact and because of the severity of the play is what determines it. And by the way, I mean, Caruso was up and he was in the huddle. They didn't know that he, was leaving the game or anything. He was still in the huddle when they decided it was a flagrant 2, when the referees decided it was a flagrant 2. But the way that they described it was because the player was in the air and because he landed violently, that's why they were calling a flagrant 2. So by definition of the rule, that's why it's a flagrant 2. And I get that.
That's silly. I mean, if you're a dumb basketball player and you don't know how to fall, then that shouldn't be held against the guy who fouled you.
I see. I don't know. We'll have to agree to disagree on this one. But getting into some more basketball talk here, the Clippers erased a 35-point deficit to beat the Wizards. When healthy, are they the best team in the league?
No, that's just bananas stupid. I mean, listen, they're 24-25. Okay, the defending Western Conference champion Phoenix Suns are 37-9 and atop the Western Conference. So are they really better than the defending champions who just got better this year? Are they better than the Golden State Warriors who started off in first place and just got back Klay Thompson, who's an MVP on every other team in the league? Are they better than the Bulls, the Nets? Are they better than the Sixers, the Bucks? I mean, to me, the Clippers, if completely healthy, probably aren't even a top 14 or 15 team in the league.
Yeah, this is I think it's the third time this season that they've erased a deficit of 24 points or more, which seems to me that they're comfortable when they are down. But I mean, look, the Wizards aren't world beaters. I mean, it's not like you went out there and you did this to the Brooklyn Nets or you did this to the Chicago Bulls or you did this to, even a team like the Philadelphia 76ers. You did it to the Washington Wizards. And I don't think they've been relevant since Michael Jordan hung it up. So to me, this was a non-issue. I don't think that they're the best team in the league when they're healthy. There's a lot of other teams that are ahead of them. There's probably about 10 to 15 other teams that are ahead of them when they're fully healthy. So I don't agree with it either. I just kind of threw it out there to see what you would think. So LeBron and AD beat Brooklyn. And after the game, Brooklyn's guard Harden, James Harden. Sorry, I couldn't think of his first name at first. James Harden it was said that it was rumored that he was unhappy and he was frustrated with the team. And afterwards, he kind of defined that. And in his press conference, he said, look, am I frustrated that we're not healthy? Yes. Am I frustrated that we're losing? Yes. Am I frustrated that we are a better team than what our record shows? Yes. But it doesn't mean that I'm frustrated with the team. It's just noise. This is coming right before the trade deadline, right? I think we got 2 weeks before the trade deadline. Do the Brooklyn Nets trade James Harden prior to the deadline?
No, because who do you get back? There's nobody in the NBA that's good enough that you can get back, and no team's going to give up 5 unprotected firsts. I mean, James Harden's a top 5 player in the league. There's no way you trade him. And yeah, he should.
What if he wants out?
I mean, I guess obviously he's not saying that right now, and it's okay to be frustrated if you're underachieving. But yeah, I'd say if you don't want to be here, I have no problem moving a guy, but I don't think he doesn't want to. I think he wants to be there. Who doesn't want to play with KD? I wouldn't want to play with Kyrie, trade that guy. But who doesn't want to play with KD? Harden and KD is a good 1-2.
Yeah, and I get his frustration as well. I would be frustrated too, knowing that, our record at home isn't very good. And part of it is because KD's hurt. The other part of it is because Kyrie doesn't play home games. Like Kyrie, because he refuses to get the vaccination, is not allowed to play home games in Brooklyn, which I don't understand half of these rules because they're the way that it works is that if you're an unvaccinated player and you come to Brooklyn and you're on the opposing team, you can play. But if you're unvaccinated and you're on the home team, you can't play. And same thing as like in Golden State or something like that. There's a bunch of different areas that are the same way. So I don't understand how all that works. But so Kyrie's not playing home games. And it's frustrating now. How much more frustrating is it going to be for Harden come to playoff time when you got a home game, Game 7's at home, and you got to play without Kyrie Irving? I like it.
That's a good thing.
You think that's a good thing? You think they're better without Kyrie?
Yeah, I think Kyrie just messes everything up, especially if you're only playing every other game or only away games where it's okay for him to play. I mean, that's why I say trade the guy. Get somebody who can play every single day. And Harden, like I said, he's a top 5 player. Kevin Durant, top 5 player. Kyrie, I don't know where he is, but get rid of him and get somebody in who can play every single game.
Yeah, I always, when it comes to basketball, I usually defer to your acumen because you are a much smarter basketball guy than I am. You follow the game much closer than I do. But on this one, I think I disagree. I think that Kyrie is a special player. Now, granted, he's a clown, and he is selfish and he doesn't care about his team. But he's still, when he's on the court, usually he's one of the 3 best players on the court. And for that, I can't imagine that you're not better with him on your team.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense. Like I said, because he's not playing every game. So you're basically learning how to play with a guy every time you play with the guy. So I just think it's a mishmash. It doesn't make any sense. So even though you may practice with him all week, I mean, we know NBA practices are just shoot-arounds. Just move him along. Get somebody else.
Rule of the Jungle says Kyrie is the best point guard in the league.
Listen, are you and Javier like chatting up funny things to say together? Because
they got the
really
same.
Funny.
They got the same Kush dealer, is what you're asking.
I mean, I'm not going to say that Kyrie's not good. I mean, but are we really going to put him ahead of Damian Lillard and Steph Curry? I mean, come on, let's get real.
Yeah, I agree. Rule of the Jungle also says, who has worse hair, LBJ or Harden?
Harden. I don't like the little little poop dreads they all do. I don't love those. Do cornrows. Like Iverson was cool, man. I loved, especially like when he did like designs and stuff. That was really cool. But yeah, I would take LBJ's receding hairline.
Yeah, I agree. Either one of them, I guess, are really, really bad. I don't really like any of them. And then he comes back and says, "Oh, lost it there." Comes back and says, "Who's better than Kyrie?"
We just said Damian Lillard and Steph Curry, and that's just off the top of our heads. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, you got Lillard, Curry. Is Luka a point guard?
He's kind of a point forward like LeBron, so I wouldn't count him.
Okay, Trae Young is another one that comes to the line. Yeah. Hell, even right now, I'd still take Chris Paul over Irving.
I'd take him because he's a better leader and he's not a head case, but talent-wise, Kyrie's probably better.
Okay. All right. So, moving on, we've got 2 years since we lost Kobe Bryant in that helicopter crash where him and his daughter, Gigi, just, obviously lost their lives. 7 other people lost their lives in that helicopter crash as well. Tough time for all of the families involved. But Kobe Bryant was just a phenomenal athlete. And he was one of those guys who, to me, he's closer to Michael Jordan than LeBron James is to Michael Jordan. And I've said that a lot. I've always said that argument when people ask me, about LeBron versus Jordan, that whole thing. And not only that, but he was a fun guy to listen to on the mic. When he was in interviews, he was just one of those guys who you just genuinely could like because of who he was. So I know you were about as big of a Kobe fan as I've ever met. Kobe Bryant's your favorite player of all time. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah. When I got the news, I felt sick to my stomach, and I felt like I was in a daze. Like I felt like I was in like a bad dream. It didn't seem real. I know it sounds weird. People talk about like when celebrities die and people who didn't know them. I mean, I felt like I had lost a family member.
Yeah, and you know what? It was. I was downstairs. I think I was watching TV or something, and I went upstairs, and Michelle had said, "Did you hear about Kobe Bryant?" I said, "No, why? What?" She's like, "Yeah, he died." I said, "Get the hell out of it!" I didn't believe her, so I started looking up stuff on my phone, and then all of a sudden everything starts blowing up, and it was tough, man, because you watch a guy throughout his whole career, and I get it. People say that all the time. You lose actors, you lose singers, you lose athletes, and people find it weird that fans can take it personally. But when you follow somebody so closely, when you are a part of their career and when you are so invested as a fan, as a real true fan, when you're that invested, it hurts, man. It hurts like you've lost somebody that you knew because you were around them for so much. They were such a big part of your lives. And so I can understand how you felt that day. Cause even myself who, I loved watching Kobe Bryant play. He was just one of those guys who I just, felt had a whole lot more to give, and it was going to be fun watching Gigi play. A lot of people thought maybe she was going to be the first woman to ever play in the actual NBA as opposed to the WNBA. I've heard that thrown around a lot, and Kobe being Kobe and being the competitor he is, I wouldn't be surprised if she had that same energy and she was still going to go after it as well. What is your favorite memory of Kobe Bryant?
So there's quite a few. I mean, obviously the 81-point game, it was huge. And obviously it led to the commercial with Jalen Rose when he wants the 81 olives in his martini, which I laugh every time I watch that. The 81-point game was phenomenal. The game he hit 12 3-pointers in a game, and that was in 2007. But probably one of my favorites, because every time it pops up, I laugh. Kobe, people don't realize he was such a killer. I mean, such a killer to the point that you have to understand, like, you watch movies about guys who have like guns in their face and the hammer's cocked back and they just like light up a cigarette and they're like, bam, I'm not gonna care about you, right? Just like so cool. And I think of that highlight of Matt Barnes doing the fake, like he's gonna throw it in Kobe's face, and Kobe didn't put his hands up. He didn't even blink. It was just like, go ahead and do it. Yeah. And for me, my favorite memory of Kobe Bryant is off the court. He was just one of those guys who I felt like could have been a life coach, right? Because he was that guy who didn't accept failing. He was one of those guys who always wanted to make everybody around him better. And one of the things that I'm always going to remember is a quote that he have, and it was, it's the one thing you can control. You're responsible for how people remember you or don't remember you. Don't take it lightly. And that was one of the things like that actually hit home for me, because it's true, right? When you pass, you are solely responsible for how people remember you. You are solely responsible for how you treat people. You are solely responsible for how you interact with people. You are solely responsible for being the person that you are. And to me, that didn't show any differently when Kobe passed, because what showed, I mean, you have basketball players on the court crying when they were doing the tributes to Kobe Bryant that night. And then you had, the funeral and all the speeches that were given and all the lives that he touched players. And it was just, to me, Kobe Bryant was just that guy. And I know he had his indiscretions. I know we had the whole Colorado thing, and there was something, like, people aren't perfect, but he was one of those guys that just kind of was there. And he was one of those guys who I felt like if you needed something, or if you needed to talk, or if you needed somebody to give you their honest opinion about what you needed to do with your life, I felt like he would have been that guy. And so for me, that's my favorite memory of Kobe Bryant. I heard a great story by Jay Williams, who used to play in Chicago, played for Duke, and he talked about his rookie year in Chicago, and they were playing the Lakers, and he said he walked into the gym, and Kobe's already in there, like, hard workout, like, I mean, going hard against guys, 1-on-1, 1-on-2. The trainer is really trying to working them, and he's dripping with sweat and just hardcore. And Jay Williams is like, so I started shooting around, trying to warm up, kind of get going. And I probably shoot around for about an hour, hour 15. Like I said, Kobe was already drenched in sweat when I got there. After about an hour, 15 minutes, I kind of go back to the bench. I take my shoes off, and Kobe's still going hard. And I hear him still going hard as I'm walking out of the arena, or out of the hallway. And after the game, I met up with him. I said, Kobe, man, the warm-ups this morning, like, that was nuts, man. What was that all about? And Kobe said, I saw you walk in, and I just wanted to let you know that no matter how hard you work for the rest of your life, I'm always going to be working harder than you.
Yeah, and he is. Look, I love Jay Williams. I loved Kobe Bryant. That's a great story. There's so many of those stories. The one Jordan told prior to that, where he's whispering in Jordan's ear and talking to Jordan, and it's talking about how he's going to take them. When they're playing one-on-one, like. Those are the things. Kobe Bryant was that competitor, and Kobe Bryant was that guy. We were all blessed to have been a part of his career, to see the game that he played, and it's always going to be sad what happened that day in the helicopter, but we are all able to look back and remember some of the things that we remembered about Kobe. So it's always a good little tribute for that. So with that being said, we are going to take another break. Another commercial that I don't know if I've seen this one before, but I guess we'll find out. We'll be right back. Give us 2 minutes.
ManHourRadio.com.
All right.
The one with the 2-minute black screen, right?
Yeah. So I've seen that one before. That's a more normal one. But anyway, we got some comments here before we get into the NFL Championship weekend. One comment that I really want to get into here is Rule the Jungle. Kobe is a fun guy, a great leader, but isn't a top player. So sometimes I feel like, because I know Rule the Jungle and Buck are friends. I guess they played football together or whatnot. I didn't know they had the same crazy takes. Because how on God's green earth do you think Kobe Bryant wasn't a top player? I mean, I don't know. I
want to know, what do you consider to be a top player? Like, what is the criteria, and how many of them do you think there are? Because if you're like, oh no, there's only one top player. Okay, yeah, then he's not the top player. But like, to me, he's my 5th best player of all time. If you wanted to bump him down to 6th and give that spot to Tim Duncan, I'd be okay with that. And even if you wanted to move Bird and Magic a little bit ahead of him, fine. But he's a top 10 player. So what do you mean by he's not a top player? Like a top what?
Yeah, I don't get that. Again, like you said, I mean, if you're talking about is he the greatest player of all time? No. To me, I have him 3rd on my list. And I know a lot of people, even yourself, who's a Kobe guy, think that's high for Kobe, but that's where I have him. And so I'm I don't know. I don't know how you could not think that Kobe is a top player all time. But interesting to hear what your 1 through 10 would look like if Kobe Bryant is not in it, because I think we would have some arguments there for sure.
Grayson Allen, number 1.
Grayson Allen. And he's also going to have Kyrie Irving at number 2. So let's get into the championship weekend here in the NFL. We have the 49ers and the Rams. They are kicking it off on Sunday afternoon. What's the matchup you want to see the most in this one?
I'm really curious to see that 49ers offensive line, because obviously Aaron Donald is a double team, maybe even a triple team, no matter where he is on the line. But Von Miller looks really tough against the Bucs. So if you're getting like playoff Von Miller and Aaron Donald, I really want to see how that offensive line handles it.
Yeah, and that's actually the same exact one that I have. I want to see the offensive line of the Niners versus the defensive line of the Rams. I want to see if Jimmy G is going to be able to survive. I know we watched a team in the Cincinnati Bengals who had 9 sacks last week and still won the game. I wouldn't recommend that as a recipe for victory, but they found a way to do it. I want to know if we're not going to see Trey Lance before the end of this game, because Jimmy G playing with a sore shoulder, a sore thumb, playing against Von Miller and Aaron Donald and this Rams defensive line. I mean, good luck. I'm interested to see how that one plays out. What are your Rams' key to victory?
They've got to protect Matt Stafford, because here's the deal. And the reality of it is this. Yes, the Rams defense is crazy. The 49ers front 7 is better than the Rams front 7. We're talking Bosa, DeForest Buckner, Fred Warner, right? This front 7 is legit nightmares. And so the key for the Rams is protecting Matt Stafford, because I think that 49ers defensive line is going to get after him more than the Rams defensive line is going to get after Jimmy.
Wow, that is to me, that's kind of a hot take. Look, for one, Bosa is also playing injured. I mean, Bosa has been shaken up the last 2 weeks. God, if you're asking me to put the front 7 up, there's no way I'd have them ahead of the Rams. So that's interesting to me. For me, the Rams' key to victory is going to be Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford needs to come out and play clean football. Don't turn the ball over. Hit a couple of big shots downfield. I think that this 49ers defense is susceptible to that. And I think that you can beat this Rams defense with those long balls. So to me, it's Matt Stafford. How good of a game does he have? What are your 49ers' key to victory?
Stick to the formula, right? Keep making Coca-Cola. Don't make any new Coke, all right? Basically, run the ball, play good defense, let Jimmy throw it 15 times a game. And he doesn't throw any touchdowns. He's going to throw for 126 yards, but you're going to win. So stick to the formula. That's what wins.
Yeah, my key to victory is actually the defense that we just talked about, who I don't think is on the same level as the Rams. But the key is going to be getting to Matt Stafford, making him uncomfortable in the pocket, forcing him into making mistakes. Can you get to him enough to make him uncomfortable? That's the 49ers' key to victory for me. Who do you have winning, and what's the score?
49ers 2017.
Wow, 20-17. This Rams offense is playing at a very high level right now. This Rams team is playing at a very high level right now. I know the 49ers have won 6 in a row. I do. I know it. And I know that the only reason that the 49ers are in the playoffs is because they erased a 17-point deficit to the Rams in Week 18. But this time, with the way that the Rams are clicking, maybe this is the one time that they don't take the foot off their gas too early. This is the one time that they're going to go out there and score more points than the other team, and it's just going to be impossible for them to get back into it. I am going to go big on this one, and I am going to go with the Rams putting up a 40 burger and winning this one 42-31. 42-20. 42-20 Rams on this one. I've got a big blowout win for the Rams.
Yeah, that's at least 2 dozen eggs in your face, I think, at the end of this game.
It's
not going that way.
Well, I hope it doesn't. I really do. I hope that it's going to be a closer game. The Rams are so damn good, and maybe I'm just rooting for Matt Stafford so hard to get a ring because I've been on his wagon for a long time of being one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league, and it's sad for Detroit Lions fans, right? To go and see a guy who led their team and who they kept saying was the problem. They get rid of him. He goes to a team that says, hey, let's give you some weapons. And now he's going to an NFC title game. It says a lot. I like Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford is, again, one of the most underrated quarterbacks of all time. He is one of the toughest quarterbacks I've ever watched play the game. So that might be swaying my opinion a little bit there.
The 49ers have beaten the Rams twice this year, and one of the reasons, and this is going to be the third time, and one of the reasons is because, listen, I understand the Rams just beat the Bucs. Here's the thing about the Bucs. The Bucs have probably the best run defense in the NFL. I mean, Akers, I think, had 22 carries for 31 yards, which is kind of what I predicted. They don't let people gain yards. Well, here's the thing that the Bucs don't do. They don't pressure the quarterback. They're not great at that. And I know they did a little bit, but that's not their strong suit. Their strong suit is stopping the run. The 49ers get after the quarterback, and they stop the run. So you really don't have any weaknesses in that front seven to exploit. And I think the only way to beat the 49ers is to play a game management style of football. If you try to go out there and beat them as a quarterback, you're going to lose 100% of the time. Just ask Aaron Rodgers, okay? He should have been managing the game, not trying to win it.
Well, here's something that the Rams didn't have in the first 2 games, and that's Cam Akers. I know Cam Akers played in the Week 18 game, but he was just coming off of the injury that was supposed to have kept him out the entire season. But he came back and he knew he wanted to salvage a season. Cam Akers being healthy, Cam Akers working on all cylinders is what has made this Rams offense so explosive in this postseason, because you now have a threat that you have to worry about in the backfield that opens things up for the passing game, and that's what's done it for the Rams, and I think it's going to do it again.
If Stafford throws for 300 yards, the Rams lose.
Wow. Okay. I thought you were going the other way there.
Nope. They can't win. They can't win with him airing it out.
All right, so then we got Bengals Chiefs. Which matchup do you most want to see in this one?
Come on. Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes. I mean, who wants to see anything other than that?
Well, you don't get to see Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes. You get to see Joe Burrow versus the Chiefs defense, and you get to see Patrick Mahomes versus the Bengals defense.
Yeah, whichever team wins, they're going to say that quarterback beat the other quarterback. So guess what? This is what it is.
All right, so yours is Mahomes versus Burrows. Mine is actually going to be Jamar Chase versus the Honey Badger. I'm going to be interested to see, for one, if the Honey Badger is even going to play because of the concussion. But to me, that is the premier matchup. Can he wreak enough havoc on Jamar Chase and not allow Jamar Chase to have a big game? And Jamar Chase to me is going to be, within the next 2 to 3 years, he's going to be the new Devontae Adams and the new DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to be the number 1 wide receiver in this league. I have a lot of respect for Jamar Chase. I like what he's doing. So for me, that's the matchup I most want to see. What is your key to victory for the Bengals?
Well, I think it's fun because we both picked people who aren't going to match up against each other. My key for the Bengals is use the whole clock. Don't leave 13 seconds on the clock. Use it all up.
Yeah, that's not a bad one. It's not a bad one at all. My key to victory for the Bengals is going to be their defense. How do they perform against a very explosive Chiefs offense, an offense that seems to just have found it at the right time? And how do they slow them down? They did it earlier in the season. They beat the Chiefs earlier in the season. Can they do it again? It remains to be seen, but That's my key to victory. There is that defense and how they perform against that Chiefs offense. What is your Chiefs key to victory?
Don't panic with all that time in the pocket. So you just got done playing Buffalo, who was chasing Mahomes all over the field, and he was throwing sidearm passes and behind the back passes and passes with his face, and you just really nothing you can do. But we saw him do that against like this ridiculous defense and pass rush and this ridiculous secondary and linebacking crew. You're gonna have all the time in the world against the Bengals because they do not get after the quarterback. Don't freak out. Take the time. Make the right read. Don't feel like you have to rush.
Yeah, my key to victory for the Chiefs is don't look past the Cincinnati Bengals. That's all you have to do. Don't take them lightly. Don't take them for granted. Don't play down to your competition. And you're going to be fine. You're going to win the game. That's my key to victory for the Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty simple. Yep. Who wins this game and what's the score?
Chiefs 37-20.
Ooh. Now, I said my key to victory is don't take the Bengals lightly. Don't think that you're going to walk in there and you are going to just walk all over this team. That's exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs are going to do. I think they are going to play down their competition. They've done it all year long. I don't think this is going to be any different time. I think they're going to allow the Bengals to gain confidence. I think they're going to allow the Bengals to stay in this game, and I think it's going to backfire on them. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl, and I've got the Cincinnati Bengals winning this one by the same score that they won it in the regular season, 34-31.
This is their fourth consecutive AFC championship game. Andy Reid does not go into any game unprepared. Now, he's a horrible at clock management. I don't think he's a great coach in clutch time. However, when it comes to team preparedness, there's no way Kansas City goes into this taking it lightly. No way.
Why were the Cincinnati Bengals able to beat them in the regular season?
I would have to review the tape of that one game.
Because the Kansas City Chiefs allowed the Bengals to stay close. The Kansas City Chiefs gave the Cincinnati Bengals reason to believe that they could compete with them. And that's what they're going to do again. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to have the confidence at the end, and Joe Burrow is talented enough to make you pay for it.
I think Joe Burrow is great, and I think he's on the same level as Josh Allen, who did not make them pay for it. So unless Joe Burrow is going to call the heads instead of tails, right? We don't know how this one's going to play out. Plus, I don't think he has the same kind of defense that Josh Allen has. So it's going to be a bad, rough day for the Bengals. And you know how I can tell if the Chiefs are taking them lightly? Is if Tyrann Mathieu matches up on Jamar Chase. Then they're taking it lightly.
He's not going to match up. He's a safety. He's not going to match up with them one-on-one. But Jamar Chase is going to be able to beat their corners. That's where it's going to come up to the Honey Badger to how he plays Jamar Chase. Is he going to have a good game? The Honey Badger is their best pass defense. He's their best weapon. He's been their best weapon for a long time. Their cornerbacks are not very good. It's that the deep backs, your safeties, that really help that Kansas City defense. And that's why I had the Jamar Chase versus the Honey Badger.
Well, then you're looking at the wrong safety because Jamar Chase is a linebacker safety hybrid. He plays down in the box. He doesn't play the one over. Like, when they go one man deep, it's not Matthew.
Right, but he's the one that is going to go up, and he's the one that is going to play on Jamar Chase. He's going to be helping with the double team.
Okay. I would be surprised if he makes any tackles or plays on the ball directed at Jamar Chase in this game.
All right. We're going to find out.
Okay.
All right, so that is all the time that we have for now. Wayne, why don't you tell the people where you're from?
I am actually from a nice little podcast called the Recasted Podcast, or Recasted 2.0. And what we do is we take movies that are at least 20 years old. We recast them with modern day actors and actresses. And it's fun. We just did Indiana Jones. That'll be up soon. Our most recently published episode was Ocean's 11. I had Bradley Cooper as Danny Ocean. In case you guys are curious, you can see that you can listen to the whole cast on Good Pods. That's where I really promote people. Go to Good Pods. You can rate every individual episode. You can interact with the show. You can comment on every single show. So definitely use Good Pods. I mean, if you want to use Spotify or Apple too, you can. I mean, I'm not going to stop you, but Good Pods is the way to go.
I'm a Spotify guy. I like Spotify. I use it for some of my stuff, but not a whole lot of it. Good Pods, I do use a lot. We're on Good Pods as well. So it's good stuff. You guys check it out. If you have not, definitely check it out. Make sure you like the Recasted podcast while you're on there, and check them out. These guys do good stuff over there. Good work. Wayne, as always, man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining. Man Hour Nation, rise up.